The Saline Solution presents Naked, the podcast series that pairs it all: real life experiences, how they were dealt with, and the lessons learned. Facing the person in the mirror always makes us check ourselves, accept our past, and guides us to make the decisions that are best for our peace of mind. Are you naked? Here's your host, Saline Griffith. This podcast is for adults 18 years and over.
Hey guys, welcome to episode 6 of the Naked Podcast. It is the wins of career change. And we know many of us, especially in these times, are really delving into the things that we really are interested in, the areas that we're interested in. And of course, you've seen many memes, you've seen many quotes about following your passion, you've listened to many inspirational videos and talks about, following your passion and that kind of thing. And it could not be so easy to do. And this is why we have people like Leah, who's my guest for today. Leah and I got naked talking about some of the things that you encounter when you are looking to change your career or when you're launching out into your own business. And oftentimes we may have that transition to deal with, transitioning from corporate into your own business, which is what I did, as well as changing career paths altogether. Two totally different industries. Now, I was in the insurance industry since I left A levels, and now I am in media. And I took that decision at the age of 40. So it really was a bold, brave step to take, but it didn't come so easily because I had a major setback, that was really and truly the catalyst for this change, even though the change was occurring, but I needed that extra push to really get me to do it. So I hope you enjoyed the conversation as much as I did. And remember, we getting naked. So let's do this. Let's do this. I shared with you very briefly my own experience in terms of getting into media. I've been in the field of finance accounting for all of my work life, straight out of A levels. It was that. And even though I liked what I was doing, I knew it wasn't for my personality. It wasn't for me. And oftentimes people will be like, you should be in marketing, you should be in PR, you should be in this, all of these different things they're telling me. And I'm like, I don't know, boy. There were some setbacks there because um, the companies that I worked for, financial institutions, insurance companies. So when you go to your CEO and you said, okay, I want to go and study marketing or whatever, they'll be like, well, this is in the earlier years. They'll be like, no, this is a finance company. I've really been not encouraged where that is concerned. So I kind of parked it up for a while.
Yeah.
And fast forward to when I had my kids, I started studying marketing. And when I had the kids, I had to shelve everything because it's like, it's a twin. And yeah. So it was a bit of a challenge studying and seeing about the children and that kind of thing. So I stayed in my job, but I kept saying, no, I want to do communications. I want to do anything in that field. So after the long break, I said, you know what? Go for what you want to study and not just have a job. Because oftentimes, as I said, whilst I enjoyed what I was doing and I was good at it, I just found that I wasn't passionate about it. And I believe that every single day that you spend, you need to be passionate about what you're doing, right? So I just went into studying media studies, communication and media studies, and it's been going great. And at the age of 40, I'm like, just before I turned 40, I started to study that. And I'm like, yeah, I like this, it's going well. But I will resign later on in the year. But I'm a huge procrastinator, Leah. Oh my God. That's my middle name. And so I'm like, yeah, oops is right. Really working on getting rid of that. And so looking at the media studies and that work was really not work became work really and truly because it's like this is what I'm studying, but then I have this job. Then I said, you know what, let me give it a go. But as I said, procrastinating and you're kicking the tin up the road,
Yes.
bam, I lost my job. And I'm like, God knows what he's doing because he said, oh, you're not going to do it on your own. I will show you how to do it. And that is exactly
You
how
needed some help.
I needed that help. That wasn't just a push, it was a shove.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, of course, I went through the period of feeling like, oh my God, what am I going to do now? But then you find yourself saying, okay, now it's a clean canvas you're starting from. I don't want to just go and just do another job. So let me just take the leap of faith and
Yes.
get into this. And it's been going well so far.
Yes.
I mean, I don't
Excellent.
have all the answers, but and we never do, huh? So, what are your thoughts on passion versus just doing a job? Can you find passion in a job?
Well, first thing I'm going to say, just listening to your story, Celine, is I think you could talk about this topic for the entire hour, actually. Hats off to you for following, for listening to your instinct.
Mm.
If you want to call that following your passion, hey, it's probably just the same thing we're saying. So a lot of people, just what you spoke about, I think a lot of people deep down know what they like. They do, even though I work with a lot of people who've forgotten it, because of course they've sort of squelched that voice down. So they no longer even know when it's telling them to do something, which is your instinct, your inner voice, right?
Yeah.
Your passion. So hats off to you, even though it was, you kind of put it off, that you ended up saying, let me listen to this voice. Let me just do what I like. Let me follow. Not a lot of people are brave enough anymore to do that. We'll probably talk about it. I do see it a lot more today, and I do see it a lot more with younger generations.
Yeah.
But hats off to you for taking that, for really saying, let me just go in with this and see what happens, right? And I will say that I think in COVID lockdown, I sometimes just refer to it as lockdown, right? I do think a lot of people had time to, one, think about what do I really like, what do I want in life. There was a lot of time for introspection.
Oh,
Let's put
yes.
it that way.
Yeah, boy. 2020 was that year. It was.
A lot. So I'm not surprised to see a lot of people coming out of that and making changes. That's not surprising. I'm happy to see people are saying, and they're brave enough to show the world, this is what I actually like. And also some people might have just been, like you said, they might have just been affected.
Yeah, yeah.
Negatively affected and had to rethink, well, what am I going to do now? And luckily people are saying, what am I going to do now? Well, how about I just do something I like for a change?
Yeah.
So good on that. I do want to say something though. You did mention procrastination. So I always have to say this when people say it, and you say, you want to get rid of it. And I want to say something to people. Procrastination is not something that you get rid of. It's something you manage.
True.
And it's something you can manage. If you tell yourself up front that you have to get rid of it, the brain already knows that's impossible. So guess what? It's not going to happen.
Right.
But if you tell yourself, I'm going to learn to manage it, you probably say, I could learn to manage it. And that's all it is. So it's really looking at you can learn to manage it. That's what it is. So I had to say that first.
I get you. I totally understand because this is probably why we procrastinate in the first place, because we think it's something that's so far-fetched to really manage, as you say. But oftentimes it comes from a place of fear. So, yeah.
All fair. I really cringe a lot of times when I see a lot of these messages, even though I get the good intention behind them, where people are like, you have to get rid of your fear. And I get the intention, but it's false hope. You don't get rid of it, you manage it.
Yeah.
So, people will ask me, I speak in front of crowds of, hundreds of people sometimes, and people say, don't you feel scared? I say, of course, I'm being, last time I checked, but by now I've learned things how to better manage it.
Correct.
That's, and the good thing is these things are learnable. So you can learn to manage procrastination, right? And even if somebody wants to make that jump to entrepreneurship, to, or even if over 40, there are things that you can learn to make that jump too.
Yes, yeah.
But yeah, definitely in terms of passion, sometimes I use the word, sometimes I don't use the word, but I do get it in terms of following, listening to that inner voice. I was lucky in that I grew up, my mother just always told me, well, when in school days, you know, you reach form 3 and you have to pick subjects and that kind of thing.
Yes.
And she would just always look at me and say, well, what do you like? Reach form 5, well, what do you like? And I will tell you, I ended up going to university in France to study English literature or English studies. And she kept just saying, do what you like. And look where I am today. So very different world.
Right.
But I really believe there is something powerful that happens to the individual when they're allowed to pursue what they like. I think then you actually end up doing more than you set out to do, because you're like just devouring things that you like.
Yes.
So I think it is important for us to encourage that. Just do what you'd realize, and as you said, no one has the answers. And guess what? I am self-employed entrepreneur, business driver, as I call it. I'm going on my 16th year. I will not ever pretend to know everything, and I don't want to. That's part of the fun.
Exactly. Learning something new as you go along.
It's part of the journey. And you know, it is a journey where you really have to let go.
Right.
You really have to let go, because you're not going to be able to manage everything that's happening, you know?
That is so true. That is so true. In terms of someone, I mean, like I transitioned from the corporate environment into my own space, you can see, because getting on radio, I mean, I still have, and this was one of the things that really kept me back for a while, because I said, I know I'm such a moody person sometimes that I would go on radio on the morning time and not feel to have that energy and all of that. How am I going to do it? So I always kept, shoving it to the back of my mind. But now that I'm actually in it, I find it. And I just what you were saying earlier on, you find different things. You pull things from any and everywhere, because sometimes it's me grabbing a cup of coffee before I start the studio, or I might do some jumping up and down in the studio before I go on air. I might pray, or I might just sit and meditate for 5 minutes. Whatever my energy is that morning, I said, okay, at the end of the day, I know I have to bring it every single day. And oftentimes, that is one of the things I was scared for, that I may not be in the mood to talk on radio today. So how am I going to mask that? Because I'm not a good masker. What you see is what you get. So if you see me in a foul mood, okay, just leave a letter be, you know. But in terms of that transitioning from corporate into doing my own thing, it was a bit scary, I have to say. It really was a bit scary, because it's like, what am I doing? Health plan, no health plan, no all of these perks or benefits that you were accustomed to. And here it is, you're literally standing on your own 2 feet. But it feels really
is
good
scary.
to know.
And it is definitely scary. And I think there are a couple of things here. So definitely, depending on how long you've been employed or you've been in corporate, that could affect you in a variety of ways. So the longer you are, let's just use the term in corporate, right? Say you might need a moment to purge that out, because you don't realize you've built up certain habits. You've built up habits in how you speak and how you project yourself and just how you interact. And you've built up this corporate image that may or may not be you. Most likely it's not 100% you, because you were representing a brand,
right?
Someone else's brand.
Correct.
So I find with people who are coming from corporate, there is, and I'm actually working with a client right now like that, there is a moment where you need to figure out, who am I? What is my brand about? And it's not always as easy as you think, because you don't realize how much you've actually let that other brand become part of who you are. And that's fine, because you needed to be successful in that role, right?
Right.
So that's totally okay. But you need to detach, and you might need to do a little bit of soul searching in a way.
Yes, yes.
just to get in touch with who you are. Because as you rightly said, now when you are representing your own brand, that has to come from an authentic place,
Mm-hmm.
and you need to tap into that energy.
For real.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's an
Yeah.
important. I actually will tell people, take a moment to work on what do you stand for, your own brand.
Yes. Well, I did go through a whole personal branding exercise, and it
Yes.
was so necessary
Mm-hmm.
and useful because I still go back to it when I want to remind myself of what my
Yes,
core values are and that kind of thing. I oftentimes
absolutely.
go back to it. And I
Yes,
said, even if someone is working in a corporate environment and this is their dream job, I think it's important that they find their own brand as well, even though you're
absolutely.
performing those functions, because at the end of the day, you're exchanging a service, you're exchanging a skill for your
Yeah,
salary, but this is you giving to this organization who you are. So obviously, you have to make sure and represent your brand
correct.
within that brand. Yeah.
Yes.
And making that change from, say, corporate into this new field, having to do that personal branding exercise, you learn so much about yourself as well.
Yeah. And the thing is, you don't realize while you are employed, you never really think about yourself.
Yeah.
You don't think
Yeah.
about yourself. And when you are self-employed, when you're your own boss, um, if you want to be comfortable constantly projecting yourself, know what you stand for. I
Mhm.
will tell you something. I see a lot of new entrepreneurs, for example, struggling with content. Let's talk
Mhm.
about the content. So they're
Right.
online now and they're like, I'm struggling with content. So they're thinking it has to do with marketing, and they're downloading all these things to tell them what to post every day.
Mm.
And that kind of, I'm sure you've downloaded them too,
Not really,
right?
I
Oh, okay.
I
Some people,
literally
well,
go on
sorry
a
for
whim.
saying that. A lot of they've downloaded what to
Hmm.
post to get content ideas,
Right,
right?
right.
And for a lot of them, when I have deeper conversations with them, the truth is they're already intelligent people. They're already people who have a wealth of experience and knowledge. But what is lacking is they're not in touch about what they stand for.
Mm.
And then to be able to project that. So a lot of new entrepreneurs will ask me, you're so comfortable talking. And they think that's because she's good at public speaking. No, it's because I'm really comfortable with what I stand for.
Nice,
That's the difference.
nice.
So when I do talk about it, I'm really comfortable. I'm not trying to project something that's not me. So
Hmm.
that's why I say for been employed for a while, you need to detach from the brand that you represented before and get in touch with the brand who you are now.
Right.
Whether that's soul searching, whether that's doing, as you said, some branding, something,
Hmm.
but just really getting in touch with what you stand for. I'd also say you have to do some practical things too. So just even from the financial point of view, you might want to put aside
Yes.
um, you might want to put aside some savings, because then that's the other part of it. Let's face it, you may not be banking as much as your day job,
Right.
right? Or some people may have the opportunity to do both at the same time and to test the waters,
Mhm.
which could also be a good thing, because then if you are able to do that, you're starting to do your little market research and figure out this new world
Yes.
while still having the security of a job,
Your nine to
right?
five. Yeah.
So
Hmm.
yeah, so that's a way. But there also comes a point when you have to say, do I want to jump into this full time?
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. But even with doing it simultaneously, don't you think that that will actually, for some people, cause them to push the tin a little, kick the tin a little higher up the road, and say it's really that jumping that plank.
Well,
It
here's the
could
thing:
really, really be. Hmm.
anyone who works with me knows something comes with a deadline.
Ah,
There's
okay.
nothing, we don't have conversations without dates attached to them.
Okay,
So,
okay.
right? So what I would say is, I think the wrong thinking is people have ideas, and I will say, by when, due when, deadline when. And I could tell you something, a lot of trainees resist that part of the conversation, because when it comes to the time, we are
Yes.
like, oh, Leah, whoa, that's kind of intense. It's like, whoa, do we need to go there? Like, we need to go there, because your brain needs to know I have to figure this out by then.
Right.
When you don't put timelines in your brain, the brain will just have that thought, it's just open. But
Yeah.
if you say, for an example, even if you pushed yourself and you said, I need to choose between my day job and my passion project by December 31st, 2021. Just just say it. People will realize the way they work backwards and the things they do will change dramatically if they didn't have that deadline.
That's true. Wow.
You'll
Yeah.
approach it differently.
Yes.
You'll actually
Yes.
approach it differently.
You're
So I
quite
would say
right.
definitely put in some deadlines.
You're definitely right about that because this podcast has been in the making for like over 2 years, you know. And one of my friends, he started his podcast, very successful with it. I co-hosted some of his episodes with him as well. And he was the one who kept telling me, Celine, when are you going to start the podcast? And I'm like, soon, soon, I have to do this and I have to do that. He said, you're real planning, boy. He said, you're planning yourself out of the podcast. And I have this thing where I say nothing happens out of its time. I believe it, but
I'm not into those types of sayings, and
Yeah.
I'm not ashamed to say it.
yeah, because when you say that, you tend to, as you were saying just now, things just out there in the big universe and you have no by when date. When I have been given projects to do and I have a by when date, best believe it's some of my best executions, you know? So my friend who's working with me on this podcast, making sure that I keep my timelines and stuff, I have to be so grateful to him because it's like, wow, I didn't think because that day when I was telling you that I clicked send on the very first episode at midnight that Saturday night, he was like, I hope you click send already, you know. Send it as is. Don't even listen to it again so that because he said you're too much of a perfectionist. You're going to find this sounding off. Just send it. We will build from there. Build from where you're at. And I have to say, I mean, I'm in season 2 now and no regrets. And you just improve as you go along, you know? So yes, I am slightly, yes, I believe in things happening in their time, but you have to set that time. Make that time.
To whoever's listening out there, there's something you want to do, put a deadline to that action. And I'm talking about every single thing, put a deadline, right? When I say deadline, put a date. Whether it is research that vendor you want to bring in stuff from, or make the call to the lawyer to register your business, make that call tomorrow to the bank to open the account, put deadlines. And I'll even go so far to say, as you had an accountability buddy, if you know that being accountable to yourself, you're not there yet, get an accountability buddy. Of course, somebody who you can really trust, right? Because of course, your business is your baby. You did mention something very important. You said the word perfectionism. And I am somebody who has happily learned to manage my perfectionism. I would say I'm a recovered perfectionist, which means I am a super high achiever. Anybody who knows me knows that. But I've let go and I've learned to manage it because perfectionism, how should I say, the word itself sounds glamorous, a little bit alluring and like you're better than anybody else. But really and truly, it holds you back from your best work. It holds you back from your most creative work ever. I promise you that.
Absolutely.
If you want to tap into like super creativity and super productivity and real output, you have to learn to manage that one.
Yeah.
That perfection. And it's a form of fear, by the way.
It is. I did read upon that. It is a form of fear because you find all of these reasons why you shouldn't just launch something when you're saying, okay, this has to be fixed, that has to be fixed, and you just fix as you go along. And learn as you go along. Yes.
And I'll tell you something. So as I said, this is my 16th year as an entrepreneur. And that's the first hat I wear, right? So no matter what business I'm doing, my first hat is as a business driver, as an entrepreneur. And I think there's so much, well, it's really good that there's a lot more entrepreneurial drive right now. And I'm happy to see that. false marketing out there is that you do this one thing, everything works, and you don't have to do anything ever again or learn anything. You download this one thing, you do this one thing, and you have a running business. It is a constant day in, day out learning.
Right.
Constant. It's constant, because anybody who is, even if you look at somebody who is posting right now on Instagram, the algorithm alone changes every day. That's just one variable in your business. One.
Yeah.
There are many variables in a business, and a lot of people don't know this. So I'm on Instagram not very long, and I was lucky that my first business, which is Trainma, I have a business that specializes in corporate learning and development.
Okay.
That business, I didn't need to be on social media, and it's still not on social media. And, I think a lot of people, so my other business, which is online coaching for overwhelmed entrepreneurs, that's what's on Instagram.
Okay.
So in terms of just being in business and having, corporate clientele, that's my first, I guess that is my first business, right? I was going to say my first baby, but she's a teenager now, okay?
Oh.
And along the way, I've done other things. I'm multi-passionate. I had a boutique for a while that was very popular, and then I had a spa as well. And I tell people, you learn as you go along. I'm what I call 80-20. You kind of reach 75, 80%. I say run with it.
Wow.
75, 80, just run. The rest of it, believe me, you figure it out.
Okay.
And it's all good. Another thing that I'm seeing changing in Trinidad, which I'm happy about, is giving people permission to mess up, to F up, to fail. It's normal.
Yeah.
Like, I never had that fear. So when I had Trainma, my corporate business, then I said, I love fashion. I was like, why don't I do this, try this out? And then I tried out the spa. And the spa didn't work for me. I love the boutique. But the difference is, I think, especially in our culture, Celine, in Trinidad, there's like this huge fear that if, when you mess up, it's like shame on you, right?
Right, yes. And
I'm going to tell you something. It's a win-win, because I'm only learning. While I'm learning, you haven't learned, you haven't learned any, I'm still learning. It's only a win-win for you.
Right. Agreed. Yeah.
Because either I learn what works or I learn what doesn't work. I'm winning either way. You know what I mean?
Right, because you would have been in that space of a spa. You've been in the space of a boutique. You could even give advice to some people who are probably now getting into that realm as well. Because
even if it's not that realm, here's why. The frameworks of all businesses are the same,
Yeah.
So what people think is, wait, just because it was a boutique, it was about fashion. No, I have to market, I have to close sales, I have to have relationships with the bank, I have to have relationships with vendors. They all businesses, the framework behind them, they're the
same thing. Yes, correct.
So in essence, the more things that I'm trying out, I'm learning more about how that framework works.
Yeah.
So I tell people, you really have to jump in. And when you start doing it, that's when the real learning begins. That's when it starts to happen, as you rightly know.
COVID has, we spoke about it earlier as well, that COVID has really, really opened a lot of people to the things that they have been suppressing because of their job or being afraid. But when you realize that, hey, some people lost their jobs as a result of COVID, and they had no choice but to delve into the things that they're just naturally good at. And then that is actually serving them so much better than what they were doing before. Do you think a lot of people might very well continue in that vein, even though, I know there's no such thing as going back to normal, because what is that? We are definitely, we have gone through a serious change in our world.
We're evolving.
And we're going to evolve from there. We could only go further on from there. And as you rightfully said just now, there's that conversation that has started in Trinidad where people are really embracing each other, and the fact that somebody's business might not work out, but you know what? Pat you on your back. It's good. You just keep going. I am liking what I'm seeing where that is concerned. Of course, you have the naysayers around and that kind of thing, but we need to redirect the focus.
Well, here's the thing. Again, being in business for a long time, about the naysayers, I really never had time to think about it. And
Okay.
I'm being genuine with you, because when I started, I just didn't have time for that. I was so obsessed, happily obsessed with learning my craft
Nice.
and getting good at business. That I just didn't have time for that. And I was in my bubble, and I'm happy to say that it was a bubble of learning and just trying to be the best at my craft. And that's something I will have everybody think about. You want to be the best at your craft, right?
Yeah.
That's important. So that's important. If you have time for that, then I don't even know if you're building a business. You get me?
Yes.
I don't know if you have, how could you have time to focus on that? So that's one thing. People are always going to have opinions, definitely. So that's one thing. As far as COVID, I really believe in a way we're seeing people who, again, had a lot of time to think about, and whether it was by force or by passion, they are getting in touch with what they like. And I think what we might end up seeing are a lot happier people in the long run.
Yeah, because then it
That's
wouldn't feel like
actually
work, right?
well, there's always going to be bits and pieces. It is work, but
You mean you have to put in your hardest. Your hardest
yes,
amount of work is when you're working for yourself, when you're trying to build your own business. Yeah.
it is.
Yeah.
It is. But when I say happy, happy in the sense that people who are living true to themselves, who are doing something that's authentic, and when doing something that is true to yourself, you are a more fulfilled human being.
Correct.
So
Yeah,
I'm going to be in seeing people who are a lot more fulfilled in that sense. May not, and are not necessarily monetary, but just doing something that they truly enjoy.
Yeah.
And if you do something, again, that you enjoy, you get obsessed with it. And if you do that long enough, the things that you want will happen for you. Because if, as I said, if I'm so busy working on being the best at what I do, eventually you are going to get good at it, and people will know that.
Right. Agreed.
Does that happen overnight? No.
Hell no.
No.
But in terms of what you do, Leah, in terms of the coaching and you do, it's a life coach and the entrepreneurial coaching. Yeah.
Entrepreneurial. So that was something. So Trainma, again, my corporate business, that's my teenager, is still around, right? So that's definitely, I'm known for that.
Right.
And I launched LDS Consulting. I launched that formally a year ago, so just before COVID.
Right.
And the reason was a lot of people started to come to me and ask me just for advice on entrepreneurship. And people who would know me from Trainma, right? And would say, well, can I ask you questions on this? How do you deal with this? And by then I had already over a decade of experience being in business. And I didn't realize that, again, I was just so focused on what I was doing that, again, there were other new entrepreneurs, growing entrepreneurs who were really suffering from overwhelm. And it really wasn't about them not knowing their field, because they knew their field, but just realizing that growing and building a business is not always as easy as it appears, as some of the marketing out there makes you believe. And that became my new passion project. And it's very dear to my heart, because somebody asked me, well, why don't you, package it, do it as an online program, scale it, and what do you do? Scale it, sell it, package it, and make more money. And I'm not doing that. I love being one-on-one with people, because everybody's entrepreneurial journey is so unique and it's so special to that person.
More stuff, more opportunities are going to come your way just by doing what you're doing. Because just looking at the Instagram posts and stuff that you have, I'm like, hey, look at this. And the energy alone, oh my gosh.
Well, I will tell you something. I think I've also reached that stage in my journey where I'm okay with saying, hey, I opened a business once and it failed. I've reached that stage where I know I know for a lot of not young, new entrepreneurs, because you could be new at any age, right?
Exactly.
A new entrepreneur, especially in Trinidad, we're small.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of them are afraid to say, "Oh, I'm not confident." Inside, they have all kind of butterflies and things, but they're not, they don't want to say it because, of course, they don't want the public to think they don't know their stuff. You know what I mean?
Right.
But I know inside, come on, you're dealing with a lot of ish. You're dealing with a lot of ish. But I've reached a stage where I'm okay to talk about it because COVID for me is not my first disaster year.
Okay.
I had my first in 2008.
Hmm.
That hit me in my stomach. So COVID was like, oh, here we go again.
Again, right. You were prepared.
I was like, okay, this is, so I know what it's like to go through. I know what it's like to have terrible, to have tension with employees. I know what it's like to have people stealing from you sometimes. I know what it's like to have issues with the bank. I know what it's like to be worrying about the money problems constantly. I know what it's like to not make a sale. I know what it's like to be doing your best but not getting recognition. I know all the pains that they've gone through, and I'm comfortable now to talk about it.
Right. I
I'm
think
not,
people
I
need
think we
that.
have to stop hiding it. We have to stop
Correct.
hiding. Yeah,
People
we have to
need
stop
that those kinds of conversations to help build them up as well. Because
Yes.
and you are seeing a lot of it where people say you fail forward. It's good to fail
Yes.
forward. You have to experience
Yes.
these failures so you would
Yes.
know some of the things that you have to do to recalibrate and that kind
Yes.
of thing because it has been taboo before that
Yes.
hey oh gosh look she started this business and look how it flop you
I
know.
know, and I'm seeing that changing, and I really
Yeah.
do believe that there's the winds of change in Trinidad and Tobago, and I'm really happy for that.
Yeah, boy.
And what I didn't have, I guess, 15 years ago is I felt a little alone at the time, maybe, but
Mm-hmm.
again, I was just so busy, plugging ahead.
Yeah.
I would also say to new entrepreneurs out there, or even persons looking to make the jump,
Mm-hmm.
connect with other people going through, because there's real power in community. There's real
Yes.
power. I'm not
Yes.
saying share your idea necessarily,
There's
but
power in community, which
power
we
in
know.
community.
But how do you find this community? Because sometimes you go to
Mm.
people, not just with the idea, you don't flesh out your whole idea for them, but you just want to talk to people in your same sphere, in your same circle of what you're doing, your same industry. And I
I
will
would say
tell you, the media industry is very guilty of that. Oh my God. You hardly find where people want to help each other. It's only if you're
all
at a
areas.
certain,
Again,
I guess so.
Trinidad is a small place. So here's what I will tell you.
Hmm.
Community doesn't have to necessarily mean Trinidad. I would say
Of
join a
course
lot of
not.
different groups online.
Right.
And you have to be active on groups to feel out which is the one for you, where you're
Hmm.
going to get that advice that you want.
Okay.
Again, it's not going to be, I joined a group, I asked a question once. No, you have to, you're going to have to feel it out,
Yeah.
I join groups all the time. I feel them out, like them. I'm getting ideas. No, I leave. I join another one. I'm
Okay.
doing this. I'm signing up for newsletters constantly. Good information, valid value add. Yes, no, go up for another one. So,
Okay.
you have to, I use the term play with my clients, right? And what I mean by that is you have to play with things as an entrepreneur, meaning you're trying different things, right?
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
I would say join different groups. Again, I am not telling you go and tell them, I have this amazing idea, guys.
Right. Yeah.
you know be mindful of that, be
Hmm.
mindful of that, but nothing is wrong with asking questions about what you're thinking of doing, or about how it could be done.
Right.
um and you have to put in the work. Sometimes I will see entrepreneurs, I'm in some groups that are new entrepreneurs, and I'll see some of them asking things like, I want to sell this, who can I order it from? And
Mm.
I'm like, yo, go put in some homework and research that.
Right. Right. But my other question and observation has been that like in my industry, I found that it's almost taboo to talk about what you earn.
Ah, yes. Okay.
It is very, very difficult to ask another radio personality or to ask someone. So, but to me, it's good to know these things so that you will know how to plan. So, where do you get the information from? Do you, that is one of the things for me. I just found that you don't know how to ask the question. You don't know how to go to someone in the industry and say, hey, um, what's the industry rate? And who do you go to get the industry rates for, say, radio personalities in my using
You
myself
do
as an
have to be
example.
active in your field. So
Hmm.
that's something different. So let's say now, like you've made the jump.
Right.
So before we were kind of talking about people who are looking to make the jump, let's say you've made the jump into whatever. So either you're in your field, you are a coconut grower,
Hmm.
you are making soaps, whatever it is, right? You have to get active in your field. For me, it's what I call how do you stay in love with what you're doing? Because
Right.
it's a relationship and you got to stay in love. But staying active is one of the ways to understand what happens in my field, in my ecosystem where I am. So this
Yes.
is Trinidad and Tobago, right?
Hmm.
You have to. So whether it is joining local associations, I
Right.
highly recommend that. Going to their events, going to their online meetings. And I did that for a lot in my earlier years. So I found that that was highly beneficial to get the answers to some of those questions. And that's where you're going to make relationships with people.
Hmm.
That's where you're going to have relationships with people who you can trust and go to.
Right. Right.
So you have to, I don't think, I don't know if you can join a field and then not be active in the field
Of
locally.
course. Of course.
Yeah, that's what I
Yeah.
say. And then make, you will start to make those relationships with people. But like everything else, relationships do take time.
They do.
You have to put in
Yeah.
the time and give them time.
You being this bridge, because you're like a bridge. What you do is literally a bridge between someone getting into their own space, doing their own thing, and the thought that they had, it being a thought, and
Thank
then
you.
them executing it, right?
I
So,
never thought of it like that. Thank you.
so how do you feel when people are actually successful, when they've moved forward and they're successful with it? Or have you had experiences where people literally just gave up on their dream?
Honestly, no, no one has given up on me yet
Well, I want to
because
know because with your
no,
energy and stuff like that, and
yeah,
giving people deadline dates, I
it's
don't know how it's possible.
it's not. It's really not. I'll be, if any of them listen to that, they will say, if you know Leah, it's not. So
Yeah.
I smile a lot. I know sometimes I'm looking at my feed and I'm like, God, somebody was like, you're so smiley. I was like, but my clients know I am really serious when it comes to putting in the work. I'm serious about results. I am obsessed with results.
Right.
But I will say that when people come, you have to be ready to put in the work.
Mm-hmm.
That's the main thing. And
Yeah.
I'm glad that you see it as a bridge. For me, I kind of help them fast track
Mm-hmm.
what is their idea, what they want to do. I haven't had anybody give up on me as yet. And because, again, I have a background in adult learning and performance. So I know the science and the frameworks to get there. I'm not pulling something out of the sky. I'm going
Right.
on 15 years experience of training thousands of people. So the program itself is designed for results. That's my background. So that's what it's meant to do. Of course, are there moments when people dip on their journey? Absolutely.
Right.
But I'm there to support them. I'm not there to judge them.
Nice.
The
Well,
work
that's
is,
important. Yeah.
yeah, it's not about judging, it's about supporting, but it's also about giving honest feedback,
Mm-hmm.
right? Which I think
I guess
you
they
need.
receive it. They receive your feedback well because of this smile, right?
Well, I'm honest. I'm
Right.
tactful, hopefully, but I'm
Mhm.
honest. Yeah, nobody has given up. Um,
Has
how
anyone
do I
switched what
feel?
they want to do though, in terms of, okay, I've realized that this is not the field that I really, really like, but then you're really coaching them
No,
based on a
no,
framework. and
the
an
framework,
approach,
and that's
right?
what it is. The
Mm-hmm.
framework, how the framework is built, or the process, how it goes, is really and truly, a lot of them come to the point where they're so overwhelmed, sometimes to the point of burnout or
Okay.
resentment to their business. And this, how the process works, is to give them back so they can focus on their business and their life.
Right.
um what I will say for a lot of them is that they come back more energized to their business. How do I feel, coming back to your question, in terms of when they make, I mean, I wouldn't show it to them, but I literally get emotional because
Mm.
I know what happens when you feel like you're giving your business your all and you're not seeing results and you're ready to give up. I know what that feels like. And I
Right.
know for them how powerful it must feel when they make progress.
Yeah.
And for me, it's really touching to relive or to live that with them.
Hmm.
You hear somebody, I mean, I really have people coming to me and saying, Leah, I'm ready to give up on this.
That's great.
And when they're like, oh my gosh, I mean, I had a client, amazing woman, who she has a day job. She also has a thriving business.
Hmm.
I don't call them side hustles. I give
Of
them the
course.
respect. It's a business if you're making money.
That's right.
And she had put off for 1 year, she had put off launching her business, relaunching it.
Hmm.
And when we worked together and she launched it, I was genuinely emotional outside of the cameras and our calls, because you're talking, can you imagine somebody putting off something that means so much to her for a year?
Hmm.
And she was
Wow.
ready. She really, when we met, it was like, I'm working with somebody else. People who are really to the point of giving up on something that means something to them, which means if they were to give up, they would feel like failures.
Right. Right. Yeah, I got that. Hmm.
That's a very, you can you imagine if these people, if they had gone that path, these would be human beings walking around feeling I'm a failure. And for me, that is just, I'm just saying, you need to give your business a chance. You need to put in the work. You need to put in the work. Sometimes people just need a little structure and help.
Right.
That's all it is,
That's it. Yeah. Yeah.
But yes, so it's very powerful when they do. And like I said, they know that they have to put in the work. Their deadlines, Selena, I'm not like a drill master. Their deadlines, but they're always negotiable.
Nice. Nice.
But
I
I
like
usually
that.
get my way.
There are people like you in existence, and in terms of what you do, because at the end of the day, some people have the ideas and they just need that other part of it to keep the wheels turning, and it's very important. Your role in that, you
Thank
know?
you. Yeah, thank you. And I just don't, people don't, if it was a message, people don't give up on what you have inside.
Yeah.
That's one thing. If you have that voice like yourself, you are a fabulous example. You did it on your own, which is amazing, Celine. Over 40, amazing.
Thank
You
you.
know, do listen. If there's like what I call that nagging voice, it's just not giving up.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
really need to listen to that
absolutely.
voice,
Hmm.
and nothing is wrong with asking for help. So I tell my clients the same thing I'm saying, will tell you right now. Have I had help along in 15 years? Hell yes.
Hmm.
Hell yes. And the first time asking for help is the hardest, because again, you're thinking, I should be able to figure this out.
Yeah,
After you ask for help the first time, you realize, wait, when I ask for help, I just get better. It's so easy after that.
very good. Very good. I really
It's
encourage people to check in with Leah because it's important to have someone who has your back
yes.
and
Well,
really do it in such a way that they are also passionate about what you do. So some people may have a coach and they just give you all the guidelines to follow and all that kind of thing, but to have someone who's passionate about what you do as well is priceless. So I wish you continued success, Leah, and you might see me knocking at your door at some point in time.
thank
And
you, Celine. I'll give a few free tips. Don't worry.
yeah, so thank you so very much for sharing all of this insight with us on this episode of the Naked Podcast. And of course, I will share your social media handles with my listeners so that they can check you out as well. All right. So
Just in closing, Celine, I want to say thank you so much for what you are doing. Really, when I had seen, on IG it coming up, and I will be honest, I didn't listen in. But then when you explained to me what you're doing here, which is really taking topics and talking about it in a really open, honest format. Again, I think what you're doing is relevant. It's so needed right now. So actually, thank you.
Oh, thank you for that. Bit of encouragement. I needed it because there are days of like,
Yes.
what are you doing?
No, you're doing good stuff. You're doing good
Yeah.
stuff.
Thank you
Yeah.
so much for that. Oh my gosh, I really enjoyed this conversation, and I hope you did as well. Leah is such a ball of energy, so much passion. You can tell that she really, really loves what she does. Thank you so much, Leah, for agreeing to have that chat with us today and for our listeners to benefit from the things that you really, really do inspire people to do, as well as, of course, inspire your clients. And I'm hoping that many others become your clients because I don't think they're going to miss out on anything at all. All right. So I will share Leah's social media handles with you. I'll share that with you so that you can check her out on Instagram as well. Now you can also leave your comments and feedback about this topic and many others on the Saline Solution on Facebook and Instagram. Looking forward to hearing from you guys. Remember, always to be a good human. I also want to say thank you to my editing boss, Cam Productions, for always lending us your services. Thank you so very much for that. I am forever grateful. So guys, keep reaching for the stars, keep going after your goals, and remember to chase your dreams. Bye.
Stare at the sun.